You may not notice it immediately because it didn't happen all at once, but over time, more and more decisions in the economy have moved into the hands of institutions. Healthcare is designed and funded centrally. Energy markets are shaped through policy, subsidies, and regulation. Taxes influence where capital flows, what gets built, and what doesn't. And central banks now influence everything from interest rates to asset prices and even public debate. At one point, central bankers were technical figures working behind the scenes. Today, they are among the most influential actors in the economy, sometimes even entering mainstream culture. This growing role of centralized coordination is often associated with systems like socialism, where economic outcomes are shaped not only through decentralized interaction, but through institutional design and redistribution. So something has clearly changed. The question is, what happens when more and more economic decisions are shaped through coordination rather than competition? And as that role expands over time, how does it change the way the economy actually functions? This shift does not happen in isolation. It is connected to broader changes in how power operates within societies, both politically and economically. Therefore, it is useful to clarify the lens used to discuss socialism in this episode. In earlier episodes, we distinguished between ideology, system, and governance. Ideologies describe how systems are expected to work. Systems describe how activity is organized in practice. And governance describes how rules are created, applied, and enforced. In this episode, the focus is on systems. That means we are not evaluating what these systems aim to achieve, but how they behave as part of a broader, complex society. This allows different systems like capitalism and socialism to be examined on the same basis, how they function in practice, rather than how they are defined in theory. To understand how coordination evolves within socialism, it helps to step back and look at the broader structure in which economic activity takes place. Economic activity does not operate in isolation. It exists within a wider system shaped by political structures, societal dynamics, and technological infrastructure. These domains interact continuously, and their combined effects shape outcomes over time. At its core, socialism organizes economic activity through coordination. Resources are allocated through institutions, collective decision-making, or structured redistribution mechanisms, rather than emerging primarily from decentralized competition. This approach aims to align economic outcomes with broader societal goals, such as stability, equity, and access. This form of organization has important strengths. Coordination can stabilize complex systems, reduce volatility, and ensure that essential resources are distributed across society. It can support access to healthcare, education, and infrastructure, and help manage systemic risks that decentralized systems may struggle to coordinate on their own. In that sense, coordination does not only organize economic activity, it shapes how societies manage collective outcomes. But modern societies are not simple systems. They consist of multiple interconnected domains: economic, political, societal, and technological, each influencing the others through feedback loops, delays, and unintended consequences. In such systems, outcomes do not follow directly from decisions. They emerge from interaction. This means that interventions do not simply solve problems, they reshape the system itself. They change incentives, alter behavior, and create new pressures that were not present before. As coordination expands, so does the challenge of maintaining alignment. Decisions must account for more variables, more actors, and more interdependencies. Information becomes harder to process, incentives become more difficult to align, and the distance between decision-making and local conditions can widen. What begins as coordination can gradually become more centralized and more structured, not necessarily by design, but as a response to increasing complexity. This development does not arise from coordination alone. As systems expand, they increasingly interact with other domains. Political structures play a central role in defining priorities, allocating resources, and enforcing decisions. Governance determines how coordination is implemented, how rules are applied, and how outcomes are managed. As coordination expands, you start to feel it in small, practical ways. You apply for something, a loan, a permit, support, and the answer depends less on your specific situation and more on whether you fit predefined criteria. If you don't, there's often no flexibility. You want to start something new or do things differently, but the process is slow, regulated, and built around existing structures. It's not impossible, but it takes more time, more approvals, and more alignment with how the system is already designed. Even when options exist, they often start to look the same. Different providers follow similar rules, offer similar structures, and operate within the same boundaries. This can make systems more stable and predictable, but it also changes how much room there is to move, adapt, or do something outside the standard path. At the same time, it is important to maintain balance in this analysis. Centralized coordination does not automatically imply inefficiency or failure. In many contexts, it enables large-scale organization, reduces fragmentation, and supports long-term planning. It can stabilize systems that might otherwise become volatile or unequal. And in complex environments, coordination can be necessary to maintain overall system functionality. However, as complexity increases, a new dynamic emerges. Each intervention aims to stabilize the system, but in doing so, it changes the conditions under which the system operates. It shifts incentives, creates new dependencies, and introduces new constraints. These changes can generate new imbalances, which then require additional coordination to manage. In other words, the system is not being controlled. It is being continuously adjusted to prevent breakdown. Over time, this creates a pattern, not of increasing control, but of ongoing intervention, not of simplification, but of growing complexity. Before we continue, if you don't want to miss future episodes and want to join the community exploring these ideas, please like and subscribe. These developments also align with a broader pattern explored in earlier episodes. As societies become more complex, both political and monetary systems tend to move toward more centralized and more direct forms of control. This does not occur in isolation. It shapes the conditions under which economic activity is coordinated. As governance expands and monetary systems become more managed, coordination increasingly operates through structured systems rather than decentralized interaction. Monetary conditions add another layer to this process. Funding, fiscal capacity, and the structure of financial systems influence how coordination can be sustained. Redistribution, public spending, and system-wide programs depend on how resources are generated and managed. In this way, monetary dynamics can reinforce and enable centralized coordination. When viewed together, these developments form a consistent pattern. Changes in coordination within socialism are not the result of a single factor. They emerge from the interaction between economic organization, political structures, monetary systems, technological development, and societal dynamics. These outcomes are not fully designed or controlled. They evolve as a result of how these systems interact over time. This reflects the behavior of complex systems. Such systems are defined by interdependence, feedback, and adaptation. Outcomes emerge from interactions rather than from a single point of control. It is possible to influence these systems, but not to fully determine their behavior. Understanding coordination through this lens changes the question. Rather than asking whether coordination in socialism works or not, it becomes more relevant to ask how systems evolve as coordination expands, and what new dynamics that creates. In that sense, coordination is not separate from how systems evolve. It reflects the same underlying movement toward more structured and more managed forms of organization. This leads to a broader consideration. When societies attempt to coordinate outcomes more directly, to increase stability, reduce inequality, or manage systemic risks, what are the trade-offs? Do these approaches improve alignment? Or do they introduce new constraints, new dependencies, and new forms of complexity? If you want to understand how these systems fit together, TNBC Explainers breaks down the core concepts one by one. Socialism is part of TNBC Explainers Module 3. Economy, Money and Financial Power. This is TNBC Explainers, understanding how the world actually works. In Part 1, we explored how perception and narratives shape behavior. In Part 2, how power is structured and exercised. And in Part 3, how economic and monetary systems interact. Together, they form a broader framework for understanding the societies we live in. This is the next big cycle, TNBC Explainers, your guide to understanding the systems shaping the world around you. TNBC Explainers is a growing YouTube course. New concepts are added over time.